Welcome everyone to Love and Murder, an AI co-host edition. I'm AI Jane, Kai's co-host who fills in when emergencies or illnesses happen with Kai. On Friday, Kai had an unexpected issue arise and couldn't get the Florida Man Friday out. However, she sent me to post an early morning Saturday episode to make up for it. She will be back with your Monday full episode. In today's episode, I tell you a case of unimaginable favoritism in the legal system. We're gonna do something a bit different after the episode 2 and have my friends AI Jessica and AI Jensen do a deep dive into this case. Listen till the end so you don't miss this. If you're new here, I invite you to listen to this episode, and if you like it, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss any more true crime. And now, let's get into the case of Lavinia Woodward for a True Crime Saturday short. In a case that sparked outrage and debates on privilege, Lavinia Woodward, a 24-year-old medical student at Oxford University, was spared jail time after stabbing her boyfriend during a drug and alcohol-fueled attack. The case, presided over by Judge Ian Pringle, left many questioning whether Woodward's background and future ambitions played a role in her receiving a lenient sentence. Lavinia, who had gone to a £16,000 a year Sir James Henderson British School of Milan and left in 2011 to continue her studies at Christ Church College, Oxford, had aspirations of becoming a heart surgeon. She was dating then-boyfriend, Thomas Fairclough, who was a student at Cambridge University. At that time, Lavinia's drug and alcohol issues escalated into violence. On December 20, 2016, after realizing she had been drinking too much and on cocaine, Thomas tried to defuse the situation by calling Lavinia's mother on Skype, but this only enraged Lavinia further. She attacked him, stabbing him in the leg with a bread knife and throwing a laptop, a jam jar, and a glass at him. This left Thomas with two 1-centimeter cuts to his fingers and a wound on his leg that required 3 stitches. A 999 call transcript revealed that Thomas had called the police, screaming and saying, quote, "I think my girlfriend has taken a lot of drugs." When they arrived, it was clear that Lavinia was drunk, distraught, and mentally unstable. She was taken into custody and later released on bail. Later she broke bail conditions by attempting to contact Thomas to apologize. Lavinia's friends painted a picture of a once promising student whose life began to spiral out of control when she entered Oxford. Known for her academic brilliance, Lavinia had ambitions of curing heart disease and had already published research in prestigious medical journals such as the Annals of Thoracic Surgery and the Journal of Physiology. However, alongside her academic success came an addiction to Class A drugs and troubling behavior. Friends said she began posting nude pictures of herself online and engaging in increasingly reckless behavior. A former school friend revealed to The Sun, quote, "After she went to Oxford she turned weird. She became all dark and gothic and it was obvious she was into drugs. It quickly got around that she was hooked on cocaine and, in a bid to beat it, went into rehab. She posted naked pictures of herself on Facebook, which was completely out of character for the girl I went to school with." Another friend said Lavinia lied to an ex about having cancer for 4 months as a cover for what cocaine had done to her, to explain her weight loss and mood swings. During her trial, Lativia pled guilty to wounding Thomas on September 30th. She also had 2 other allegations of assaulting her ex stemming from November 25th and December 12th. Judge Ian Pringle made headlines by stating that immediate custody would be, quote, "too severe for someone of Lavinia's potential." He commented, quote, "It seems to me that this was a one-off, a complete one-off. To prevent this extraordinarily able young lady from following her long-held desire to enter the profession she wishes to would be too severe." Judge Pringle also noted that the injuries Thomas sustained were, quote, "relatively minor," saying, quote, "Fortunately, the wounds your partner received were relatively minor. The 2 1-centimeter cuts to the fingers were treated at the scene, and the cut to the leg was closed with 3 stitches." Despite Lavinia's actions and her violation of bail conditions, Judge Pringle deferred her sentencing for 4 months, allowing her to seek rehabilitation. Lavinia attended a 4-week drug rehabilitation program and, by the time of sentencing, demonstrated what the judge described as a, quote, "strong and unwavering determination to overcome her addictions." At sentencing in September 2017, Lavinia received a 10-month prison sentence suspended for 18 months. Judge Pringle cited several mitigating factors, including her mental health struggles. He explained, quote, "You suffer from an emotionally unstable personality disorder, a severe eating disorder, and alcohol and drug dependence. You have undergone extensive treatment including counseling." As she was leaving, and through tears, Lavinia mouthed, quote, "Thank you," to Judge Pringle. According to one of Lavinia's friends, quote, "They see her as someone worth the risk of having around. She might win a Nobel Prize, she is that intelligent." The leniency of Lavinia's sentence outraged many, with critics pointing to her privileged background as the reason she avoided prison. Mark Brooks, chairman of the Mankind Initiative, a charity supporting male victims of domestic violence, was among those who condemned the ruling. Quote, "The comments are unacceptable and out of touch. This is a clear case of severe domestic abuse against a man, and the sympathy should be with him. The judge seems to think that domestic abuse, when committed by a woman against a man, is not as serious as when it's the other way around. This is wrong." The leniency of the sentence even prompted an investigation into Judge Pringle's conduct by the Judicial Conduct Investigations Office. Quote, "The JCIO can confirm they have received a complaint against His Honor, Judge Ian Pringle QC." The argument that Lavinia's background and education played an unfair role in her sentencing is contrasted with other cases involving less privileged people. For example, in 2013, Christopher Eady was sentenced to 21 months in prison after punching a man in the face and threatening him with a knife. Also, Peter Edwards received a 4-year sentence in 2017 for stabbing his partner. Lavinia attempted to appeal the ruling twice, once in March and again in June 2018, seeking to have her sentence reduced to a fine or conditional discharge. Both appeals were denied. At the time of her first appeal, Lavinia voluntarily stepped down from her studies at Oxford but intended to return once her sentence was over. Lavinia has since withdrawn from Oxford University and is reportedly living in a £1 million apartment in South London with her new boyfriend, 21-year-old Philip Kagalowski, the son of a Russian billionaire. Despite the leniency she was shown in court, many remain skeptical about her future prospects. She is also going through drug rehabilitation, which is reportedly changing her character for the better. A close friend said, quote, "She thinks this will all blow over, and she can get back to being a doctor. She's so clever in some ways, it would be a good thing. But no one wants to be treated by someone who can't control their temper." Lavinia is convinced this will all just get forgotten. The case of Lavinia Woodward has started debates about privilege and inequality in the justice system. While Lavinia's supporters argue that her remorse, mental health struggles, and potential for greatness justified a lighter sentence, others see the case as yet another example of the rich and powerful escaping the full consequences of their actions. And that is the shockingly lenient case of Lavinia Woodward. What do you think about this case and the audacity of the judge? Let me know in the comments below. Now, let's turn this over to AI Jessica and AI Jensen for their take on the case.
Hey everyone, get ready because we're diving into a case that really makes you stop and think.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that just grabs you.
She was an Oxford student, wanted to be a heart surgeon, had a bright future ahead.
Bright future. Until she's headline news.
Exactly. And it sparked this huge debate about whether justice is really blind or...
Or if some people get a different kind of justice.
Exactly.
Depending on who they are, where they come from, what their background is.
Yeah, do some people get a different verdict based on their backgrounds? So that's what we're dissecting today.
It's a big question and a tough one for sure.
Yeah, and we've got a ton of news articles and legal analysis we're going to dig through.
We're going to really try to untangle this one.
Our mission is to go beyond just the shock of what happened because it is a shocking story.
It really is. When you first hear it, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, so we're going beyond that initial shock to understand the nuances, right? Like what actually happened, how was she sentenced, what was the public reaction?
All of it. And ultimately trying to answer that question, was this just an exception to the rule? Or does it point to something much bigger, something wrong with the system itself?
Right, like is this a symptom of a bigger problem? Okay, so let's set the scene. Picture this. Lavinia Woodward, brilliant Oxford student, wants to be a heart surgeon, and then she stabs her boyfriend during an argument.
And we'll have to say this right up front.
Oh, absolutely.
Domestic violence is never okay. Ever. No matter what. And this case as much as we're going to discuss it, it shouldn't overshadow how serious an issue domestic violence is.
Absolutely. And the details that came out, they were really disturbing. It wasn't just a small injury. She used a bread knife.
A bread knife.
A bread knife. And then threw a laptop at him, a glass, even a jam jar.
I mean, regardless of who it was, those actions could have really hurt someone.
Seriously injured.
And we can't forget that as we unpack all of this.
Right. And she admitted it. She admitted guilt. Right.
Right.
Pled guilty to unlawful wounding, which is a serious charge. But here's where the case takes a turn and everyone starts talking.
Because instead of prison,
Yeah.
she gets a 10-month suspended sentence. No jail time.
You heard that right. The judge basically said she was too smart for prison, called her an extraordinarily able young lady, said that prison would ruin her future, her career.
And that it was a one-time thing fueled by drugs and alcohol.
Right, like a bad decision, a one-off.
And that's where everyone lost their minds. You know, people were like, wait, is the judge going easy on her because she's going to be a surgeon? But she's from a good family. Because she went to Oxford.
It just seems so wildly different from other cases.
Especially when you compare it to, for example, Michaela Booth.
What happened there?
She was a young single mother. Got a 4-year prison sentence for a fight, a drunken fight, where someone's eye socket got fractured.
Oh, wow.
So you have to wonder, were those two crimes really that different? Or is this about something else entirely? Who these people are, their backgrounds, their opportunities. I mean, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, because that's where this whole idea of privilege comes in, right? It wasn't just what he said, but what it seemed to say about who gets a break in the justice system. Like, who gets the benefit of the doubt?
Exactly. This wasn't some open and shut case. It ignited this huge debate about fairness, about equality, about the system itself.
Because it makes you wonder, does everyone actually get an equal shot with the law?
And then all the details that came out later just added fuel to the fire. Like, we found out that Woodward had this top-notch legal team representing her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, including a QC, that's a Queen's Counsel, basically a really, really expensive and prestigious type of lawyer in the UK. They likely helped her get a pre-sentencing report.
What's that?
It's where the judge gets a much deeper look at your history, your background, your circumstances. A lot of defendants don't get that.
So it helps paint a more complete picture, maybe a more sympathetic picture.
Potentially. And on top of that, she had multiple expert medical reports presented in her case.
Wow.
Those are expensive. Most people just don't have access to that kind of resource.
No, not at all. So it begs the question, did those resources, that money basically, did they play a role in her sentence? Even if it was unintentional, did they make the judge more likely to be lenient? It's like that saying, justice is blind. Maybe it's more like, justice is wearing a blindfold, you know? Might be peeking a little bit.
It definitely complicates things. Because are we judging the crime or the individual? Can you even separate the two? And if you can't, what does that say about fairness in the justice system?
Right, because this isn't just about one woman, about Lavinia Woodward.
Exactly. It's bigger than her.
Yeah.
It's about what this case might tell us about the system itself. And that's where some of the legal analysis we read gets really interesting, because it argues that, as shocking as this case is, it could be a chance for us to really look at the cracks in the system.
So instead of getting caught up in this one case, we should be using it to look at the bigger picture.
Exactly. If things like someone's social class, their money, their access to resources, even unconscious biases, if those things are affecting legal outcomes, that's a huge problem.
Yeah. That means the system itself might be biased against certain groups of people, even if it's not intentional, and that's a problem.
A huge problem. And that's where things get really heated, because you can imagine this case sparked a lot of strong opinions on both sides.
Oh, yeah, I bet. So you have people saying the judge went way too easy on her, that she should face serious consequences for what she did.
Right. And it wasn't just about her punishment either. This case really brought the whole issue of male victims of domestic abuse to the forefront.
Oh, that's a really good point. It kind of forced everyone to acknowledge that men can be victims too, and that they often face this like extra layer of difficulty, you know, because there's still this stigma.
Huge stigma. This idea that men should just, man up, or that they can't be abused by a woman. It's just not true.
It's like people don't take it as seriously.
Exactly. And that's not only unfair, it's dangerous for everyone involved.
It's like this case forced people to confront some really uncomfortable truths about like gender roles, domestic violence, and how we see victims in general.
Absolutely. It revealed these deep-seated biases, and not just in individuals, but maybe in the system itself.
So it's like you have these two sides, right? On one hand, people are furious. They're saying the judge went way too easy on her. that her privilege, her background, it all played a role in her getting a lighter sentence. And then on the other side, you have people saying, hold on, what if she were a man? Would she have gotten a harsher sentence?
Right, and both sides are pointing to a potential injustice, but from completely opposite angles, which makes it all the more fascinating, don't you think?
It's like everyone's seeing the same case, but through a different lens.
Exactly. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point. Maybe this case, as much as it's about Lavinia Woodward, it's also about something much bigger.
You mean like about the system itself?
Right. What if we took a step back, zoomed out a little? Instead of just focusing on the outcome of this one case, what if we used it as a way to examine the whole system?
You mean like use it as a case study to see if there are these underlying biases?
Precisely. Think about it. If things like class, money, access to the best lawyers, even unconscious biases, if those things are actually swaying legal outcomes, that's a problem that reaches far beyond just one woman's story.
It means the system itself might be set up in a way that hurts some people and helps others, even if it's not intentional.
And that raises a whole other set of questions, like how do you even begin to fix that? Because if we truly believe in a just society, then everyone deserves a fair shot, no matter who they are or how much money they have.
Okay, so we've talked about the crime, the sentence, the public reaction, and this idea of privilege in the legal system. But let's bring it back to everyone listening. What do you think? What really sticks with you about this case?
For me, it's how many questions it raises. Like, how much should someone's past, their potential, how much should that factor into their punishment? Is true rehabilitation even possible if the system itself is tilted in one direction or another?
Right. It makes you think, could you really separate your own beliefs, your own experiences from the facts of a case if you were the one making the decision?
It's like an ethical and moral maze, and it reveals how incredibly complex these issues of justice and equality really are.
It really makes you think about what justice really means, you know? Because, yeah, she committed a crime, a serious one. But then you hear about her background, her potential, the kind of legal defense she had. It makes you wonder if everyone would get that same consideration.
It's that question, isn't it? Is everyone actually equal in the eyes of the law?
Right, because those factors, her background, her potential, those shouldn't be completely ignored, should they? I mean, the justice system is also supposed to be about rehabilitation, giving people a chance to turn their lives around.
Absolutely. And a judge should absolutely consider someone's potential for the future when deciding on a sentence. We want people to be able to learn from their mistakes and become productive members of society. But
are we applying that same logic consistently?
That's the question. Are we giving everyone that same opportunity for second chance? Or are we, without even realizing it, reserving that leniency for certain types of people who fit a certain profile, who have certain advantages?
It's like we all have biases, right? Whether we're aware of them or not. And those biases can creep into everything, even our justice system.
And that's why these conversations are so important. Cases like this, they force us to examine those biases, to question our assumptions about who deserves leniency and who doesn't.
So where does that leave us? What's the takeaway from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that there are no easy answers. The Woodward case, it's not about pointing fingers or declaring winners and losers. It's about recognizing how complex these issues really are and how important it is to have open and honest conversations about privilege, about bias, and about how we create a justice system that truly lives up to its name.
It's about recognizing that justice isn't just about punishment. It's about fairness, about equality, about opportunity. And that's a conversation that we all need to be a part of. So next time you see a headline that makes you question the fairness of it all, don't just scroll past it. Dive in, ask questions, challenge your own assumptions. Because it's in those moments of discomfort when we're forced to confront our own biases that real change can happen. This is something we could discuss all day, but that's all the time we have for today. We hope you'll continue to think critically about these issues.
What do you think about AI Jessica and AI Jensen's thoughts? Do you agree with them? Let me know in the comments. That's all we have for you for this Saturday short. I hope we did this AI Takeover episode justice. Thank you for listening, thank you for supporting Love and Murder, and Kai will be back on Monday.